This is ABC15 Mornings.
1 million students, nearly 50,000 teachers, over 2,000 schools. The clock is ticking, and within days, we could learn what Arizona public schools will look like this fall.
And the sun is up. We're moving into weather action mode. For days, we've told you it was coming. Prepare yourself because the excessive heat is here.
Yeah, although it's really pleasant out there right now. Temps in the mid-70s here at ABC 15. We're right here near Sky Harbor Airport. Kaylee O'Kelly here. We want to say thank you for waking up with ABC 15 Mornings. Our Nick Soletti is social distancing from home.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy hump day to you. You made it midweek. And yeah, we are talking about that weather, of course. It is a weather action day, so let's bring in meteorologist Iris Hermosillo this morning to break down how hot it's going to get.
Well, we know we are in weather action mode as we kick off another round of excessive heat warnings, and this one will last 5 days. So a 5-day stretch of these dangerously hot conditions and the hottest temperatures that we have recorded so far this year. This excessive heat warning covers the entire Phoenix area. These alerts also stretch down into southern Arizona and even some of the lower elevations of northern Arizona. Those alerts don't go into effect until tomorrow, but either way, we're going to be feeling the heat all across Arizona. Now, as you're getting your Wednesday started, it's still feeling fairly comfortable out there. Mild to start the day with Phoenix Sky Harbor checking in right at 75 degrees. Notice, though, we're going to be back into the low 80s as early as 8 o'clock this morning, into the low 90s by 10 a.m., and then into the hundreds through the afternoon with a high temperature today of 108 degrees. Again, that would mark the highest our temperature has been so far this year, but it's going to get even hotter before we finish out the week and as we head into the weekend. I'm going to break down that 7-day forecast for you next.
Okay, Iris, thank you very much. You know, the school year is over, summer break is underway, and now the largest district in our state is starting their plans for fall. Our Mark Thompson joining us live. Mark, August 4th is the first day of school for Mesa Public Schools, and that's whether or not the kids are in the classroom or on the computer at home. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Kaylee. And the Open Schools Task Force, they're working hard right now to come up with a plan, and they've only got 69 days to do so, so a lot of hard work on the table for them right now. The task force is made up of 170 people from 11 different areas like technology, family support, health and safety, and educational change. The task force, they're weighing 3 options on the table right now, either face-to-face instruction, basically kids back in school, some kind of hybrid where students, they would attend school part-time and the rest remote, or a total homeschool remote learning curriculum. The task force says that it is committed to safety and wellness, offering choices and personalizing learning for every student.
70 days. And I added on the slide that I take deep cleansing breaths when I think that we only have 70 days to get ready for what's coming in the fall and to make sure that we have the flexibility and the opportunities for our families and our teachers and our students.
Yeah, you can hear it in her voice there. They've really got to work on things quickly. The plans, they are due June 10th with the goal to launch the next school year by July. There will be more meetings in the coming weeks, and the state's superintendent of education plans to release her recommendations coming up next week. So this is something that we're going to really be paying attention to, because less than 70 days to have those restrictions in place. Back to you.
Yeah, Mark, we know obviously so many families interested in that. Thank you. Well, keeping you up to date on the number of coronavirus cases here in Arizona, the latest info from the state and county health departments shows that the number of these cases, now over 16,700, and 807 people have died from COVID-19 here in Arizona. More than 75% of coronavirus deaths in our state are people aged 65 and over. Many of them contracted the virus inside long-term care facilities. Now, ABC 15 is learning some COVID-19 patients are being placed back into nursing homes. One of the facilities that's accepting these infected individuals is Desert Blossom in Mesa. The CEO of Arizona Healthcare Association says that federal and state governments have offered guidance ensuring patients can return to their care homes without exposing other residents, but not everyone is on the same page.
And it's not reinfecting the rest of the building because it's shifted off into a wing.
I would prefer that they would stay in a place where they're used to dealing with it.
Christina Burke pulled her mom out of Pennington Gardens and then moved her to a different facility with 0 cases. She says she thinks COVID-19 patients should stay in hospitals until they are no longer contagious. Long-term care facilities are required to notify all families if they readmit a COVID-positive patient. New this morning, we're learning that a nursing home in Bullhead City now dealing with a cluster of COVID-19 cases. The Mojave County Board of Supervisors meeting last night to discuss this. We know there are 10 cases at one nursing home, and all patients and staff are now being tested. The board did not identify that facility.
It is now 6:05, and new for you this morning, as states begin to reopen, the risk of this virus still very real, and especially for minority communities. The CDC and experts say those communities have been disproportionately impacted. So why? Our John Genovese is live downtown right now. And John, you did talk with health leaders about this. What's happening now? What are they planning to do?
Yeah, good morning, Kaylee. Well, this is a big worry, and we are feeling the effects here in Arizona. New numbers show that the death rate among Native Americans is 5 times more than that of all other groups. And we know already more than 150 people have died on the Navajo Nation. Now, those numbers coming from the APM Research Lab. And they also found that nationwide, African Americans are more at risk. Now, I talked with Dr. Patrice Harris, president of the American Medical Association, and the AMA is among a coalition of groups calling for the Department of Health and Human Services to release coronavirus data by race and ethnicity. She says the findings aren't necessarily surprising, given that communities of color had higher rates of conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure and lesser access to health care even before this pandemic. Now, the AMA is also part of a group trying to curb vaping and tobacco use, especially in minority communities. She says there's growing evidence that can raise the risk for coronavirus given the respiratory effects. And she says local governments and states need to intervene in these communities for the foreseeable future.
We will need to continue to have this conversation when we get on the other side of this, the acute phase of this pandemic. It won't be enough just to say we have the data and now we know that communities of color are more impacted. The challenge will be, what are we going to do about it?
And the CDC says they are now collecting that data by race and ethnicity. Kaylee, Dr. Harris saying that this needs to be thorough and data-driven. It can't simply become just another political issue.
And with an action plan, too, we read. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate that live report. Congress shifting its focus for the next relief bill to small businesses. Measures that would give small business employers more time to get help for payroll and other costs are expected to pass the House this week. But lawmakers do remain split on other measures, including how much money should be given to state and local governments for recovery efforts. New for you this morning, the Arizona Commerce Authority will hold a virtual session where leaders will go over applying for federal aid like paycheck protection programs and finding alternatives when it comes to funding sources. This is happening from 9 to 10 a.m.
The mayor of Scottsdale says he will be reaching out to businesses that were recently seen to be opening with large crowds and little to no social distancing. Mayor Jim Lane calling the images from Old Town last weekend disturbing and show a, quote, real lack of common sense. Lane says he will talk to these businesses about the importance of our continued progress. Well, President Donald Trump could move this year's Republican National Convention out of North Carolina, and that's if state leaders there won't allow the venue to be filled to capacity. One local official is pitching Arizona as a backup plan. Phoenix City Council member Sal DeCiccio tells us that he hopes to get our state considered. He says he would welcome the Republican or the Democratic convention. In response to the president's tweet, North Carolina's health department is asking the Republican Party for a plan of how it can pull off an event with 50,000 people and do it safely.
The Phoenix Zoo just announcing it will welcome visitors back next month, starting June 13th. Members will be allowed to visit. The zoo will then reopen to the public June 15th. 2,500 people will be allowed in each day, and park hours will be limited 7 a.m. until noon. Today, the Arizona Coyotes are hosting a community blood drive at Gila River Arena. It's a 2-day event. It gets underway this morning at 8. It runs until 5 o'clock this evening. And donors, you are asked to make an appointment and wear a mask. We will be live at the arena this morning, starting in less than an hour at 7 o'clock.
6:09 still to come. 4 police officers fired in connection to a deadly arrest. A man pinned to the ground by an officer who put his knee on the man's neck for about 8 minutes. Protests are now forming, and now criminal charges could be coming for those officers.
ABC 15 Desert Drive Time, sponsored by Accident Law Group.
And here at 6:12, I want to let you know about this traffic alert. One to warn you about. This is North Central Phoenix right now. Police are out there as we show you these live images. They are investigating a deadly crash right there at 19th Avenue and Bethany Home Road. We're told someone was riding a bike. That person hit and killed. We can also tell you this. The driver involved did remain on scene. There are some restrictions for you to tell you about at 19th Avenue. They're between 19th and 31st Avenue, and they are expected to last throughout the morning. So just allow yourselves plenty of time, especially if you live in the North Central Phoenix area. We do want to turn now to our Iris and Rocio. We are expecting dangerous heat today, and we want you to be mindful of that. Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning. And, we're heading into a stretch of dangerously hot temperatures and potentially the highest temperatures we have seen so far this year. So far, the hottest we've been is 106, and that was already uncomfortable, and it's about to get even hotter. So a couple of headlines that I wanted to give you a heads up about. First of all, I'm forecasting 3 days of temperatures at 110 or higher. During the month of May, we've only ever recorded 2 days of temperatures at 110 or higher. That's it. And it looks like we're going to see 3 during this hot stretch here before we wrap up the month. We're under excessive heat warnings starting today, and those alerts remain in effect now all the way through Sunday. So this is a long stretch of dangerously hot afternoons and warmer mornings too. Also, some daytime high records are also in jeopardy. Friday, the forecast, 112 degrees. That could tie the record set back in 1910. And by Sunday, the record also in jeopardy. The record stands at 109, set back in 2012. And I'm forecasting 110 for Sunday. So some records in jeopardy. We are in weather action mode as we give you a heads up that this is potentially some dangerous heat. The heat risk is climbing into the high range today through the end of the week and into the weekend. And that is what has triggered these excessive heat warnings as a reminder that this heat, again, could certainly take a toll if you're not being cautious. So today, especially if you're going to be active and you have to be outdoors, make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. The recommendation is 4 cups of water per hour if you are active and outside between the hours of 11 a.m. and about 5 p.m. Best bet is to not be outside during those hours, but if you have to be, make sure that you're hydrating. Wear light-colored, loose-fitting clothing. And a reminder, don't leave your pets or your children in the car. Make sure that you always check the back seat. Also, bring your pets indoors. Give them a place to cool down as well. Now, temperatures this morning, not too bad. We're talking 70s across the valley. Clear skies up to 75 degrees in Phoenix right now. By this afternoon, though, we're heading into the hundreds, and Phoenix will be 5 degrees hotter today than it was yesterday. So we'll be back into the low 90s by 10 a.m., upper 90s by noon, then hundreds through the afternoon into the evening with today's high at 108 degrees. I expect that in that 4 o'clock hour. That's when we saw our high temperature yesterday. I think we'll see our high temperature today around the same time. High temperatures of 107 to 108 in most of our valley cities today, even into the hundreds in spots like Anthem and Cave Creek. And look at the heat out to our west. We're talking temperatures above 110 in spots like Lake Havasu and Bullhead City, triple digits for Kingman, upper 90s today in Sedona. It's going to be warm all across the state, and temperatures will continue to trend up. 108 today, 109 tomorrow, 112 Friday, then 110 each day through the weekend, with morning temperatures also warming into the upper 70s to low 80s. Then there's a slight chance for rain by next Tuesday, and that may provide some heat relief.
Iris, thank you for that. More than 200 people gathering to remember an Ahwatukee man fatally shot by Phoenix police. Officers were responding to a domestic violence call last week when they say Ryan Whitaker answered the door holding a gun. But his loved ones say that they want to know what led up exactly to that shooting.
I don't know what he could have done to threaten a police officer, because he would never do it. He would have told everyone that's the wrong thing to do.
And that's my message to the chief. If she really wants to be transparent, call the Whitaker family. Call them in.
His family says there was no domestic violence at the home, and Ryan only had a gun because he was concerned about who was banging on his door at the time. Protesters taking to the streets in Minneapolis demanding justice for George Floyd, a man who died after an officer was seen kneeling on his neck. Several officers involved in this incident have now been fired. We do want to warn you, the video you're about to see is hard to watch.
Overnight, growing outrage in Minneapolis over the death of a black man in police custody. Thousands of demonstrators taking to the streets, blocking intersections as police use tear gas to push back the crowds. So many others marching peacefully, chanting, "I can't breathe," while demanding justice for George Floyd. A video camera captured the final moments of Floyd's life Monday night. The 46-year-old is seen on the ground in handcuffs with a police officer's knee on his neck.
His nose is bleeding.
About 5 minutes into the video, Floyd appears to lose consciousness. EMTs arrive on the scene and check for a pulse while the officer's knee remains on his neck. An ambulance then takes Floyd to the hospital where he's pronounced dead.
They could have tased him. They could have maced him. Instead, they put their knee in his neck and just sat on him and didn't care at all.
Police say Floyd was unarmed and suspected of trying to pass a forged check at a store while appearing to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Adding Floyd resisted officers. They handcuffed him and noted he appeared to be suffering medical distress.
We understand that there may be other factors that are involved, but bottom line, the reasonable restrictions or whatever you want to call it, the force that was used is very unreasonable last night.
This morning, the FBI is investigating the case and 4 police officers involved in the incident have been fired.
Being black in America should not be a death sentence. This officer failed in the most basic human sense.
Floyd's longtime roommate says he found out he was dead when he saw the video on social media.
I recognized his voice and then I heard, just recognized his features and stuff like that. So I was kind of shocked.
Kenneth Moten, ABC News, New York.
Incredibly heartbreaking. It is almost 6:20 now, and we know that summer break isn't always a break for our teachers. But our Rebound Arizona team is finding ways for our educators to take care of themselves and, of course, their mental health right now. The nonprofit Valley Schools offering virtual workshops specifically for teachers, and some of the options include yoga, cooking, and mindfulness classes.
Teachers invest a lot of time, right? A lot of resources, and most importantly, their heart.
And you can find more information on these virtual workshops with this story. It's up now at abc15.com/rebound.
Well, making sure businesses do right by you, that's the promise of the Rebound Arizona team. Up next, a look at the growing list of lawsuits over everything from refused refunds to a lack of protective equipment.
Plus, countdown to liftoff. NASA calling today one of the most important launches, as we show you these live images, in the agency's history. It's been nearly a decade since the final flight of Space Shuttle Atlantis. SpaceX launching this afternoon in Florida. It is NASA's 136th flight, but it is the first one that is reliant on private companies rather than the federal government. And we are back in a moment, Arizona. 623, refused refunds, denied insurance coverage, even a lack of personal protective equipment, things like masks and gloves, all of this leading to new lawsuits from consumers. So the Rebound Arizona team is taking a closer look at some of the newest complaints and how many could reach class action status. Here's Joe Ducey.
Shut down by stay-at-home orders, many small businesses are taking a hit to their pocketbook. Many have insurance for disaster situations. And one would think the coronavirus closures would be covered. But in most cases, owners are seeing a blanket denial.
Back in 2008 with the SARS outbreak, they changed the verbiage on all of the policies. Okay. So now all these folks who thought they had coverage when they were shut down by the state for this pandemic might not. And so the attorneys are, of course, going after the insurance companies to get this addressed and get this taken care of.
Scott Hardy with TopClassActions.com says there are millions of owners who will be impacted. And to make things simpler, this lawsuit may reach a class action status, but that could take some time.
It doesn't become a certified class action until the judge 6 months, a year down the line actually says, yes, this is a valid lawsuit, and yes, the class is certified. At that point, we usually will start to see a settlement talks.
Now, attorneys could take a lot of the money in these cases, but consumers get some money as well. And it's a way to hold the businesses accountable, like for refunds from gyms, from events, from airline travel.
If your flight is changed or canceled, then if you want to get it refunded, then the airline, by law, is supposed to issue that refund, not just force you to take a credit.
Hardy says you could expect to see a lawsuit for each major company in coming months, possibly forcing settlements and money back to you.
Another big issue we have are employees. A lot of businesses aren't taking care of their people. And so now we're seeing lawsuits get filed by the families of these workers.
He says while some employees are getting sick from COVID-19, others have passed away, and family members want to hold the companies accountable for not providing essential personal protective equipment in some cases, or offering leave to avoid getting sick. Companies facing these suits include United Airlines, Trader Joe's, Hooters, and Walmart. Now, these are just a few of these cases, and even though they haven't been deemed class actions yet, there is a way to get your information on a list so that you can get updates. Go to abc15.com/letjoeknow for more information on those updates and the lawsuits. With the Rebound Arizona, I'm Joe Ducey. If you got a problem, let me know.
Joe, thank you. Next at 6:30, new concerns that the pandemic could lead to even more heat-related deaths. We're diving deeper into the connection here.
And will schools welcome students back into the classroom come fall? And if they do, what's the plan? I'm Mark Thompson. I'll break down several options and we'll hear from parents and educators next.